All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. And Carl, we are back from our little one-week hiatus. We are back into the swing of things as the spring sports season is starting to gear up. However, some teams went on some fall breaks. We haven't covered a ton this week, but spring sports are gearing up. And certainly, if you look at the weather forecast, spring is coming here in Rochester. Finally, it's coming.
I'm seeing a lot of 6s and 7s on the forecast. I stopped by this morning and saw what Eric Snyder was cooking up, and I'm like, hold on, man, don't tease me like this. I'm looking at some good weather on the horizon, and that's obviously makes it fun for the kids when they're playing these outdoor sports, but also more importantly, makes it fun for us, so we're not out there dying in the cold, braving it out there. But all in all, I'm excited, not just for the weather, but for another fun spring sports season, and hopefully it was as good as it was last year.
Yeah, very ironic that Carl is going on vacation to warm weather directly as it gets warm here. So might not quite be getting the bang for his buck, but you're going to have a good time. I personally just want to share a little story. This past weekend, you might have saw it on my Twitter page. I believe I've talked about it before because I can't go too long without talking about it. I went to the USA, or not the USA, the World Curling Championships in Ottawa, Canada, about 4 hours north. Spur of the moment trip. Had to see my boy John Schuster play USA men's skip, and it was a great weekend. This is for the fans watching the podcast. I got a USA flag signed by the entire team because apparently, when you're going to Canada to watch the World Championships, there are not many other USA fans other than the family members themselves. So had a fun little time there. Got to meet John, took a picture with him. Spent actually a good amount of time with his family as I watched a couple of the games with him. But good people there, good times. You know, curling. It's a very friendly crowd. Imagine the average Canadian sports crowd, maybe not at a hockey game, but just the average Canadian. Then a curling watching Canadian, and just the nicest level. It was off the charts there up in Ottawa.
So we're not boring or anything. Just there's a bunch of claps all the time.
But no, there was actually a pretty big controversy. Some people at home watching thought that the Ottawa crowd was kind of cheering for misses against Canada a little bit too much. So there was a little bit of controversy on the Twitter sphere. But it kind of blew over. Curling is it's a gentleman or a gentle ladies game. We like to keep things classy.
Gotcha. I had no idea that was the atmosphere. I'm so used to rah-rah and all that. Just like I got exposed last year to golf and how golf is a very quiet sport. Learned that the hard way, covering the story last year on the golf course. But so I guess I can throw curling into that same bucket of sports where I got to be respectful while I'm in there and not just being loud all the time.
Yes, good times there. USA not playing that well. I think they're 3-7 as we record this. 2 of those wins came while I was there, so clearly the good luck charm. And just want to also report on some other news that came across as we were on a little hiatus. Our friends over at Primetime 585, we've had them on the show before. They've come on our podcast every year to talk about Matt Traybold week. And, they're giving out categories, awards like we do. We were honored to be named their media organization of the year. You and myself specifically, but the whole crew. So just want to thank them for that honor. And, we don't do it for the recognition. We don't do it for the praise, but it's certainly nice to get some of that we put a lot of work into covering these kids. And it's nice to know that people have noticed.
Oh, yeah, man. It's always for the kids. And when the kids are the ones who are giving that feedback and showing that love, it's always good to see. Even when, we're at the game and at the corner of your eye, you can see, hey, put me on TV, but you can't do it because the play going on. Just to know that they still show love at the end of the day, it always brings a nice fuzzy feeling to your heart. Yeah,
we got some comments and some social media posts after that. Fans of our work, fans of the podcast. So we thank you for everybody for watching us, listen to the podcast, and we love doing it. We love the fact that you guys are loving us doing it as well. So with that out of the way, it's time to get into the spring sports season. As we mentioned, we've had about a week or two-ish to kind of gear up with things. So this show, we're going to talk about some early season headlines. not a lot has transpired, but certainly some eyebrow raising, some results, some players, some games, things of that nature. So, Carl, what's one thing that's caught your eye here? An early season headline for the spring sports season here in 2023.
AJ, I don't know if you've heard, but Victor boys have a really good lacrosse team. I don't know if you've ever heard. Like
I've heard that before. It's come through the grapevine for me.
Got you. In 2023 is another iteration of the Blue Devils, who are going to be fantastic. And the one stat that just blew my mind, and I believe there are 54 kids who are currently committed, according to the BLAX5 website.net, that are committed to play in college. 18 of them are from Victor. 18 kids are committed to play at the next level on one team. And mind you, this is a great region for lacrosse. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, obviously Victor hasn't even won the past 2 years in the sectional championship. That's how you know this is a really darn good region. The fact they have 18 kids who are going to play college lacrosse at the next level is absurd. I mean, to rattle off some of the names: Thomas Gravino, Pax Marshall, Cam Ryan, who also was a good basketball player. He's going to, the nice school right there at Syracuse. Shout out to my man. And also Sam Gotham. This team is legit. And to give some context to the season so far, took a tough loss, to Calvert Hall, their second game of the season, but then battled back St. Mary out of Maryland. Nice 13-12 overtime win. Both of those teams are nationally ranked, so clearly the Blue Devils are showing that they can compete on that level as well. Like I said before, they haven't won a sectional title since 2019. Is this year where they can get over the hump and use some of this outstanding collegiate level talent to use and maybe even go all the way.
Yeah, and that St. Mary's team, there are several different national rankings out there, but the one I'm looking at right now, and the one I usually look at, the National Boys Top 25 by USA Lacrosse, presented by Nike Lacrosse, those rankings. St. Mary's, number 5 in the entire country heading into that matchup against Victor. I saw this tweet from Ty Zanders, who works for Inside Lacrosse as a recruiting editor and college insider. He called it the biggest Section 5 win in an out-of-state game in the last 10 to 15 years. That's how impressive he called that game. So, Victor is good, as you mentioned, and you mentioned 18, college-bound players. There are only 10 players who play on the field at one time, and I had to research just because I'm not the biggest lacrosse guy. I looked it up, 10 players. This one person in a Quora answer, this coach responding back, I usually play about 18 players in the game, is literally what he put down. So I don't know what Victor's rotation is exactly, but literally every time in the entire game, they're probably having college-bound players out there. So certainly impressive for the Blue Devils. We will see what happens to them once they get into that Section 5 competition. Like you said, they have not been sectional champs the past 2 years. So I'm sure, Canandaigua and Thomas, I think, are a little bit down compared to last year. Certainly Thomas, but there are going to be plenty of formidable foes looking to knock down the Victor Blue Devils. But I think Victor has to be at the top heading into, the meat of regular season play. Speaking of teams at the top, I'm going to my early season headline for boys lacrosse. Livonia Avon, potentially the class of Class C this season. Last year they were down in Class D. They lost to Penyan. Penyan in that Class D sectional championship game, 8-6. Penyan, of course, has won about a billion of the last 1,000,000,001 sectional championships down there in Class D. But Livonia Avon, they are up in Class C this year. They got bumped up because of their classification size. I'm sure they're not too upset about that. And they took down Palmac 8-6 a week from today as we record this, last Thursday. Palmac, the Class C champs of last year, they beat them 8-6. They got down 1-0 early. They scored 4 straight to take the lead 4-1, and then never really got too threatened after that. Never got to a 1-goal game after that. Some of their top players I want to highlight, and you're going to notice a trend here. Mr. Jackson McKennerney had 3 goals. Mr. Max McKennerney had 1 goal and 1 assist. And then Christian Fumfola had 2 goals in that game. And another gentleman by the name of Hunter Fumfola had 2 goals in that game. So they got a pair of brothers leading the way for Livonia Avon. Jackson and Christian are seniors there. Max and Hunter are sophomores. So I think there's a chance we might be getting out to there to do a story maybe sometime in our future on that brother tandem. And this is a Livonia team, a Livonia Avon team that has never won a sectional championship. They have played in the sectional championship game 5 times in their history. They have lost every single time. The past 2 years in 2022 and 2021 as Livonia Avon, the 3 previous times before that as just Livonia. So this is a Livonia Avon squad that is hungry. They're ready to go. They're trying to win that first ever sectional title. And it seems like they're off to a good start with a statement win over Palmac.
You talk about these 2 sets of brothers who are fantastic for the team. The one thing that just comes to my mind, what is practice like? Because we always hear stories about, when the 2 brothers are on the same team, it's always competitive, right? And sometimes you got to separate them. Well, how does that happen when there's another set of brothers on the field? Like, are we just like, you know what? It's a free-for-all. Just let the brothers go out there and just compete and just go over the edge all the darn time. Like, I feel like that has to be established at some point whenever this, if this story gets done or whenever we get to reach out and talk to them over there at Livonia Avon. Like, 2 pairs of brothers on the same, on a obviously a really good team. Are the gloves getting dropped sometimes? Say, hey, man, stop hitting me with the stick. What'd you say? No, boom, no. So that went straight to my mind. I don't know if that was the right place to go, but I'm intrigued on how well they practice. That is where I'm going with that.
Well, I think they've had a lot of practice at that practice, probably growing up. So they've, we need to ask their parents that question. That's what we really need to ask. So we'll see if we get that. But yeah, Livonia Avon, the Class C potentially. There's going to be a lot of teams to factor into that. Palmac, of course, still really good. They only lost by 2 in that game. And then HFL, who lost in that sectional championship game last year in Class C. I know they bring back a lot of firepower. So Class C should be a fun one in boys lacrosse for this season. Carl, your second early season headline of the Section 5 season.
We're going to head over to the softball field. I can't say the diamond because honestly, I don't know what they call the softball field.
It's a diamond. It's a diamond.
It's still called
the mound and the circle. That's what we got to figure out. They don't pitch on a mound. That's where we're thinking back to our springtime problems.
Got you. I knew something was off right there. But the Schroeder softball team, the defending state champs, they're back. And they lost Molly Riccolo, fantastic softball player last year. She's now playing at the U of R. And then also Kristen Clement, fantastic player. She hit a home run at almost every game that I was at. But they're back. And according to what I'm looking at right now, they might be almost on the same level, if not better. They're back in Class AA this year. They were down in Class A, getting their first state championship. AA, obviously, you got teams like Fairport who are fantastic in that classification. But that JV team last year went 20-0. And some of the JV players on that team last year are also a fantastic start this year, starting with 10th grader Liana DeValder. She, in her most reading outing had pitched on 1 hitter, 12 Ks. Then in the game before that, 10 Ks, a homer, a triple, and 5 ribbies, 3 for 3 at the plate. That's pretty darn good for your second varsity game as a 10th grader. So clearly they've reloaded. They got some talent on the way. Sarah Perusa, fantastic basketball players. We know they just won a state championship on the basketball court. Is back catching for the Warriors. 8th grader Kinsley Keel, great player in her own right, believes back second in the lineup. This Warriors team, I know they lost 2 fantastic players last year, but they reloaded with some young guns who look like they're not playing around this early in the season with 2 wins and in Class AA this year. So we'll see how they fare in Section 5 and they can get out of the section. But I got my money on them looking good once again.
Now, when you talk about the fact that they won the state championship game last year, so they got the winning pedigree from that, and then they've got the winning pedigree from all these other sports they're bringing in. The girls' basketball, their soccer team did really well last year. Some other sports had a lot of success throughout the season. So Schroeder has found a formula. They found a good, crop of young ladies to keep going there. So, winning gets contagious, and you win enough, you kind of don't want to lose anymore. So I think that might be a little bit what's going around there at Schroeder.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about their Boston University commit, Busy Bagliari. You committed, she might be like the highest ranked player on the team, and I didn't even mention her. So this team loaded from, I don't even know who bats like 5th in this lineup. I just named 6 girls, and they are pretty darn good. So the Lady Warriors, I can't wait to go out to one of their games, sit in the outfield on that little stool. You'll see me like my head popping up above the outfield wall, and hopefully get some fantastic highlights to put on our channel.
Yeah, I remember. I believe I got some good plays from Busy back in the day. So gonna be fun when we can finally get out to the softball diamond. I'm going to a different state champ. Once again, who would have thought these state champs continue to be good? I'm going with McQuaid baseball team. Class AA champs last year. They quote unquote repeated their extended state title defense they won last year in the state championship game. They've gotten themselves out to a 4-1 start on the season. They went down south to, playing some tournaments, some spring training stuff like they usually did. I believe they were down in Vero Beach, Florida, which was a great vacation spot for my family growing up. So props to them for focusing on the baseball itself and not just, sitting at the beach all day. But they went 4-1 to start off the season. All 4 of those victories, well, most of those 4 games, some close results: 7-2, 8-7, 6-4, and 9-8. So getting it done when it matters most. Last year I remember we were kind of a little not concerned, but didn't know quite what to make of this McQuaid team because they did lose. I believe they started off 1-3 last year on their spring training trip. But this year they're getting the close wins. They lost a lot of players off of last year's team, 14 to be exact. But they got a lot of good ones coming back. A couple to highlight: Luca, Sierra Mataro, a Siena commit getting it done for McQuaid, and then a freshman here I want to highlight, Connor Forkey against Wes Jessamine. He hit a homer early in the game, and then he hit the walk-off hit later to win the game. So Connor Forkey, just a freshman. I took a quick look at his Twitter profile. Apparently, by some metric, he's very highly ranked in the state and the country for his class as a third baseman. So ranked in the top 100 for the country. So Connor Forkey, a name that we want to keep our eyes on as McQuaid tries to go for this unorthodox three-peat. Off to a good start, Carl.
I remember them last year, and they had my guy, the lefty last year, who threw the no-hitter. What was his name?
Will Taylor.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, you shot the one game at Frontier Field, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, man, this dude's outrageous. I'm trying to get to McQuaid game. I never was able. No, I did. I actually went to the state championship game. I'm tweaking. It was a fun game down there at Binghamton, and just all that energy that they had down there, and being able to see that up close and personal. I would love to see them do it again this year. A freshman though, that's how we come as a 14, 15.
Yeah.
We're on varsity. Like it's one thing. Like other sports, I see it. Like okay, basketball. It's a skill sport. But baseball, man, you got to be out there throwing and see. Newsflash for everyone at home: I am scared of baseball. I am so scared. I've stood in the batter's box one time, and I was like in 4th grade, and the ball came too fast. I think they pitched like 30 miles per hour back then, probably even less than that. So I can't imagine being a 14-year-old in the box against like 17 and 18-year-olds and not being petrified. So I'm just in awe of that fact right there. That's my TED Talk for the day on my man, because what's his name again? I got to look out for him.
Connor Forkey.
Connor Forkey. Shout out to you for not being scared in the batter's box at that age, because I was scared and it was going like 30 miles per hour.
I have to share this tangent, which has nothing to do with high school sports, but it's just really funny. I was on, how old probably was 8 or 9 years old, maybe something like that. We had this kid. He was my friend. We'll call him Andrew because that's his name. Short kid, always a short kid. So he's playing t-ball. It's not t-ball. It's 8 years old or whatever. He stands in the batter's box one time, gets hit. I forget. He might have had to miss a couple games because he got hit and it hurt him and he didn't want to come back or something like that. But he was a little spooked in the batter's box after that. First at bat. I think it was just the first game bat. Doesn't want to really stay in the batter's box. Is on the far outside. Basically can't even reach the plate because he's just so afraid of getting hit by the ball. He's so far away. He's basically not even in the batter's box. I think he might have struck out once or twice. His mom yells out at him, Andrew, you're not going to get, just stay in. You're not going to get hit. You're going to be fine. Next pitch. Boom. Right. Gets sealed. I do not think he played baseball again that season. So that can sometimes happen when you are not afraid of the ball, when you actually are afraid of the ball. So sorry I had to do that to Andrew. He's probably not going to listen to this. So sorry, Andrew.
Andrew and I are one and the same. I'm sorry he had to get hit, But that was my biggest fear, that right there. So once again, Mr. Forkey, kudos to you, my man.
All right. Well, I think we are done sharing stories from our youth baseball game. So it is time to look ahead now to games we got coming up. Our Section 5 teams are coming back. They're going to enjoy this nice little weather. And we got a couple of games we've got our eyes on coming up. Carl, what games are you going to be intently watching from very far away?
Yeah, we're going next Wednesday, so April 12th. Rush-Henrietta Victor girls lacrosse. Got the defending Class A and B champs going up against one another. Now, Victor lost a lot off of last year's team. I mean, you want to talk about Division I players and college players in general. They had a who's who of a list of ladies out there who are going to have fantastic careers at the collegiate level. But they still have Devin Livingston, had a good year on the basketball court. Already off to a great start in just 3 games, 26 points. RH, they lost a couple, but they returned a lot. Lena Cox, the Roberts sisters, Kate DeWall, just a 9th grader, already doing great things. Gonna see, if Victor's, this young team has reloaded. Do they have enough juice this early in the season to come away with the win? Or is Rush-Henrietta, who's returned a lot, are they going to stamp and put their foot down and claim their throne atop all of Section 5, regardless of classification?
Yeah, you lose a couple of All-Americans like Olivia Bruno, Eva Pronti for the Blue Devils. They have already lost again this season. They lost 11-10 to Cicero North Syracuse. CNS is a pretty good girls lacrosse program, but just the fact that Victor lost to anybody is usually a highlight. So we'll definitely see of that game. That should be a good test for both teams early in the season. I'm going to a game on that same exact evening. Thomas girls lacrosse taking on Canandaigua, another good one. I saw Thomas play on Tuesday. They gave Penfield a nice little scare there. They were down 6-3, kind of midway through the second half. Racked off 3 straight goals. Gwen Newton, she tallied 3 on the game. Ended up losing 8-6. But that is a series, Thomas versus Penfield, which is really never that close. All time, that series is 21-1 in favor of the Penfield Patriots. So the fact that Thomas kept it close, I'm sure they're, giving themselves a little bit of a pat on the back. On the other hand, the Canandaigua Braves, of course, have a phenomenal team. Once again, last year, we assume so. Hannah Davis, Liv Shore coming back. Now, Canandaigua, they did, they've played a couple games this season. One interesting result. They only beat Mercy 8-7, which going off of last year either means that A, Mercy is quite a bit better than they were last year, or B, Canandaigua might have fallen off a step, or it's just like one of the first games of the season and you can't really take too much from it. But who knows, maybe Canandaigua could be a little vulnerable. Thomas, the one thing I really want to highlight about Thomas, they were really good on those draw controls. Lacrosse, you can get a comeback going really quick if you could just win those draw controls, get those ground balls. They were doing a really good job of it. So I would not want to count out Thomas in the game at any point, and that should be a good one as they take on the Braves there.
When I think about the Braves, I think of Section 5 best last year, where every single week I could have put Hannah Davis on there. She's just a junior, and she's already off to a fantastic start again this year. I assume when this game goes down on the 12th next week on Wednesday, she'll be back dominating. And if we go to that game, I'm sure she'll provide some fantastic footage for us here at News 8. But Hannah Davis, she was rocking the number 1, silky smooth last year, quick, just fantastic player. I wish we had, more times to put her on our airwaves because she was just dominant throughout all last season.
Yeah, her older sister, McKenna, a phenomenal player as well for Canandaigua. Our third, potentially the best girls lacrosse performance I saw in the 2021 sectional championship game against Victor. She just took over that game. So her little sister living up to her legacy and creating a new one of her own. So those should be a pair of great games, girls lacrosse, as we kick up into the sports season. So that is it for our show here today. One thing I also want to mention before we go, we never really talked too much about the fantasy draft we did for the basketball draft. Carl probably is glad that I forgot because I was the champion. I think won by couple points. I can't remember exactly. This is how prepared I was to talk about this segment. But I just want our viewers to know that I was, in fact, the champion.
I got to give you your flowers for that. I totally forgot. And then, one day I was in the office and I looked on the wall, and I think it was, the tallies. and I took a quick look at what I had. I said, oh, that's not enough. And I didn't even look at what you had because I knew you had won at that point. So I will give you your flowers for that dub. You took it. You won. You're good. You're a better GM than I am. And the Brandon Bean, holla at my man AJ. He could use somebody on the staff.
Yeah, I believe it might have been the Schroeder girls basketball team that put me over the edge. But yeah, it was fun. I was glad we did it. If we do it for another sports season or next year, we're going to try to do a little bit better job of keeping you guys updated exactly how that went. But no, we had a lot of fun with that. But that'll do it for us today on today's show. We will be back again next week. As we mentioned, things are going to get a little hectic here with the PGA Championship, the NFL Draft, things of that nature. So it's going to be a little sporadic, but we will, in fact, be back next week to bring you more high school sports coverage. We appreciate you listening, following, subscribing, watching, all that good stuff. You can catch us on YouTube, RochesterFirst.com, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. We'll tweet out the show every week. It's on our Facebook. You can check it out many ways that you can. With that out of the way, he's Carl Jones. I'm AJ Feldman. Thank you very much for listening. It's time to break the huddle. We will see you next time.